Yeah.
Why choose Kelly Chevrolet? We offer a wide selection of new and used inventory with a team that guides you to your perfect fit. Our certified pre-owned options ensure peace of mind with warranties and rigorous inspections. Competitive pricing, flexible financing, and convenient trade and services, making your dream Chevrolet a reality. Trust our experienced service team to keep your vehicle in top shape and enjoy free car washes as long as you own your vehicle.
Head of hair.
And welcome everybody to Around the Fort. We are in week 7 of the high school football season. Yes, folks, I am in a different spot. I am in the snake pit. I've been moved out of my customary spot. Jeff did not like the vantage point. He said that this would make me look more handsome and much thinner. And I happen to agree with him. I am Casey O'Boyle again with Game Night, and I'm joined as always by Jackson Geiger, engineer extraordinary. He still does not have a microphone yet. We're still talking about that. At some point, we might give him an opportunity to talk. But right now, he does a great job producing the show for us. So thank you, Jackson. Jake the Snake Smith will be joining us probably for the second part of the show. He's toiling somewhere in Warsaw, some soccer arrangements. It's just something that I just can't keep track of. And then, of course, Jeff Mahoney, remote SummitCitySports.com proprietor. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Casey. Now that you got this new setup, everybody wants to know what is over your left shoulder. What is being framed on that wall back there?
No, not this, but back here.
Yeah, in the aisleway next to the helmets, there is something framed up there. What is that?
Oh, I don't know what he's referencing. Do you guys know?
Oh, sorry. It's facing the Drew Tranquil jersey.
Oh, back over here?
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, should I know the answer to this? Oh, well, there's the JFK prints. The JFK prints. I don't know if that's up against the wall. That's what you're seeing? Yeah, that was JFK, original JFK, the Knights of Columbus, and I think maybe either Time Magazine or Newsweek. The actual magazines, the week that he was assassinated in, what, 62, 63? And my dad's address and name is on that. So a little history there. So that's, and my daughter's named Kennedy. So she'll get those eventually. So with thank you, Jeff, for throwing me off. This whole thing is going to throw me off with this new vantage point, but I won't have a sore neck anymore. Yes. I can look straight ahead. Without further ado, we have from East Noble High School, defensive coordinator Ryan Robertson here in the cave. Coach, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome, guys. This is every man's dream down here to have something just like this.
Wow.
With 4 daughters, maybe one day I can make this happen.
You can have, well, and we've got Archie here, gnawing on a bone. And yeah, you are in a good spot tonight, Coach.
I'm excited.
And if you're down here, generally speaking, it means things are going well for your team. So why don't we dive right in and let's talk a little bit about this week's matchup. You've got a big one. You guys are 5-1, but kind of control your own destiny, having beaten Leo a few weeks back. But you welcome 6-0, state-ranked Columbia City. Up to Kendallville tomorrow night in a huge matchup. Not to look too far ahead because you still have to take care of business after that, but this game will put you in a good spot should you win. Talk a little bit about this matchup in general, and then maybe from a defensive perspective, what you see on film from the Eagles.
Yeah, well, Columbia City's an amazing team. They got a good coaching staff. They got a bunch of really, really good players. They're averaging 52 points a game right now. Like you said earlier, they just set a school record 70 points scored just last week. So I mean, they're burning up the scoreboard, and so that's an issue. They also run a different style of offense that most people you don't see every single week. There's weeks where you can go in and kids know how to line up, kids know what to look for, be ready for, but what Columbia City does is completely different. So it makes a defensive coordinator's week a complete nightmare. Triples the amount of film you have to watch. the attention to detail, your scouting report doubles, your film with the students and the players is more meaningful, and every little thing that you can get in that week is so vital because of what they do being so different than everybody else. And they've implemented into their youth program now. It's into their middle school. I mean, it's everywhere. It's from top to bottom. So,
well, and I was going to ask you, Coach, so, and they're throwing a ball just enough to be dangerous. And I get the feeling if they have to, they can do it more. Because they do so many different things and because they're so prolific this year scoring. Sleepless nights?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was up really late every day this week. That's all I think about. In previous years, Stratton Fuller, who is a nightmare. Well, the worst part about it is he's a really good kid.
Great kid.
So that makes it even worse, is that he's a really good kid. And it turns everything into, he's the biggest nightmare you have. But predominantly, he was out at that wide receiver spot. And now they've moved him into a slot position sometimes. And so now you've got a nightmare of figuring out where is he?
What are they
Why
going
do
to
they
do
have
with
him
him?
there?
Yeah.
What are they trying to do with him? So that just puts a whole nother level of detail and
stress on the defense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, stress on the defense. And the second you try to bring somebody else in the box, like you said, they're starting to throw it a little bit more. You get that safety down in the box trying to help make plays and stop big plays and stop big runs. That's when they hit you over top. And that's what they are massive with the explosive play. If they can get to the edge, they can crack off a 50-yarder.
And they've got deceptive speed and with multiple players. Jeff, you got a question for Coach?
Yeah, and you just talked about it, Casey. Multiple players here with over 100 yards rushing. Landon Fazio is a guy who's really been looking good for the Eagles this year. 12.3 yards per carry. Coach, what are you seeing in the backfield there? You mentioned Stratton Fuller, but who are some of the other guys that you guys are identifying and keying on?
Honestly, a lot of the keys that going into this is formational and what formation they're in and who your read key is. So every one of our players is reading a different person, and that's the style of their offense is so attention to detail. You have to be looking at the correct guy every single play, every single time. And so we're not focused on an individual because everybody's job's a little bit different. You're more focused on whatever your read is. And it could be because the same kid can run the same play the different direction. It's not when Stratton's at slot or somebody else is at slot or their fullback. It is they can run every play in each direction with different people. Like you said, so many people have over 100 yards for them that it isn't just one guy on every single play. So we've broken it down more the play itself, not who is running it, but the play. This is this play. They can run it with every kid, but this is the play, and this is how you have to stop it.
So, Coach,
it's our approach this week.
Absolutely. So it's kind of the same mentality as if you're going up against a triple option or someone where, I mean, somebody's got to be accounted for Trace Parrish on every single play, even though he doesn't get the ball.
Correct. Yeah, it is. It is the same concept that you've got to be responsible for the dive. You've got to be responsible for a jet sweep. You have to have a guy checking off each and every one of the options. And they do run triple options. Some their younger quarterback that's gotten into a bunch of games because they're just blowing people out. He runs the triple option really, really well. He scored. That's how they got their 68 points. He took one and he hit the corner and he flew. So yeah, they do. They'll run a little bit of triple as well, and you got to have your defined rules and responsibilities with that as well.
So would the one exception to the rule be maybe Stratton Fuller?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have to account for him every snap.
Correct. And a lot of what we did with him last year is we tried to double him, but now with him putting him in a slot, you can't. You're just completely taking that ability to do completely away. That's not something we can do now with him in the slot. So he's still a receiver from where he's lined up, but it's so much harder to double team him. So yeah, he's a matchup nightmare wherever he's located, and they've started to hand him the ball more this year, which they haven't done in the past.
Well, speaking of matchup nightmares, you have one on your roster that you're fortunate to have on half the time at linebacker. He's also pretty darn good running back. This week's cover boy is Dylan Creel. He's having a fantastic season, a 3-year starter, two-way 3-year starter. Talk a little bit about Dylan and then maybe take an opportunity to talk about a few of the seniors as well, because I know this is a really good senior class.
Yeah, well, Dylan he's an awesome kid. His first ever varsity reps were when he was a freshman against Columbia City at Columbia City. We had an inside linebacker go down his freshman year, and he played the whole second half. Would have been in 2021. Yeah. So he played that whole second half as a freshman, and you knew right then and there that he's a kid that could play at a high level. And so, yeah, he's been a 3-year starter on defense. And then we try to make him not run the ball. We keep telling him to not do it at a high level, but he's just so good. You can't take him off the field.
Well, especially when the game's on the line.
Correct. Yeah. When the game's on the line, you have to give it to Dylan. And the coolest thing about him is he, just like I said about Stratton, he's such a really good kid. Everything that Dylan is getting this year, he has earned. He's worked his tail off. He's just as good of a coach on the field as I am on the sidelines. Communicate with him what do you see? What do you like? What do you want to do? And so just having that with a kid with that kind of football knowledge is incredible. And the film study that he puts in, what he does to his body, everything that is coming to this kid for here now and moving forward, he's earned every bit of it.
No doubt.
But he's our head of the snake. I mean, that covers about as beautiful as you can get. But we do have 20 plus seniors this year, and defensively we start 9 seniors on defense. And of these seniors, 6 of them started as sophomores. Wow. So a lot of them have been playing a lot of football for us on the defensive side. And because he is such a two-way guy, really the leader of our defense is actually Pace Agee, who is one of our defensive linemen. And he's our rock on the defensive side of the ball because he's a one-way guy. We can all rally around him. We also have a kid named Kobe Ritchie, who has been a 2-year starter for us. He's one of our outside linebackers now. And he's
Mr. Stuffer.
Yeah, he's Mr. Tackle for Loss. You got to add that to
the leaders board.
Yeah, you got to add that.
I need more work on my plate, right?
Yeah, you got to get tackles for loss on this thing because I mean he just does everything right every time. He's a machine. We have seniors across the board. Jake Ramey is our other inside linebacker. He started for 2 years and got some time as a sophomore. We have on the back half, we have Logan Hatton, the Mad Hatter. He started as a sophomore as well. Anthony Mitchner plays corner for us. He started as a sophomore as well. Mm-hmm. And then a couple guys that we've added throughout the year. We have Dallas Plattner, who's an outside linebacker for us now. He's a senior. He's a really
running
good
back
player.
Too.
He's the other running back that keeps stealing all of our guys to play running back. And then you have Trace Kane as our D lineman. And then the focal point of our defensive front is Gavin Sparkman.
I was going to say Gavin, 6'2", 210.
Yeah, 210. And 210 might be grateful. He might be 190. Mm-hmm. And what he does for our defense, because, I mean, as a 3-man front, he's getting double teamed every single play. And we tell him you got to keep guys off the linebackers. And so
he's relentless.
Mm-hmm. And there was a play against Snyder where he got double teamed and he got pancaked. And the next thing you know, the play is like 8, 10, 12 yards down the field. And we're trying to figure out who made the tackle. And it was Gavin. Wow. Well, he was just pancaked on the exact same play. Gets up, sprints, and makes the tackle. So
tells you everything you need to know about that.
Yeah,
kid.
You can't finish a talk without making sure to add him.
Excellent. Well, folks, if you're just now tuning in to Around the Fort, we have East Noble defensive coordinator Ryan Robertson joining us in the cave. Jeff, do you got another question for Coach?
Oh, definitely, Coach. The defensive backfield is just so athletic. It's so fun to watch them play with Treesh, Scott, Hatton, and Mitchner. Do you feel like this is one of the more athletic defensive backfields that you've had?
Absolutely. Yeah. Trish is a junior. He's one athletic kid, and he has 3 interceptions on the season. Played a really good game against Brock Schott and Leo. You have Alex Scott, a sophomore. We don't normally get sophomores on the field very much, well, except those kids that started a couple years ago. But Alex Scott's incredible. He has three interceptions on the year. He's our free safety range guy. Mitchell's got an interception, and then Logan Hatton. He plays the hardest position on our defense, is the strong safety, the guy that's got to be able to go cover somebody, but then also make a
support.
Also make a tackle at the line of scrimmage. He also has 3 picks. So we have 10 on the season. We haven't had any in a couple of weeks, but it's the most. I think I looked it up and deep in our stats, is the most since it's 10 years. Over 10 years have we had this many interceptions. So it's just kids being athletic and going to the ball.
Yeah,
excellent.
Every single one of those DBs has an interception. Hatton's got 3, Scott's got 3, Trisha's got 3, and Mitchner's got 1. That's unbelievable.
And when you do that too, now as a defensive coordinator, you can kind of pin your ears back too and send a little bit more pressure, because you know those guys on the back half can play people one-on-one. And so you can get a little bit more creative on what you send.
I've got a question from Jake the Snake. He's probably probing here to get some information. So you knew this was probably coming. You kind of already answered it, Coach, but this is from Jake the Snake Smith, somewhere in Whitley County. With normally military academy teams at the collegiate level running flexbone style offense and a select few high schools, what challenges does your defense face against Columbia City's version of it this Friday night?
The biggest thing is all of your reads change. Your reads from Norwell, a spread team, they're consistent to what you see against Leo, to what you see against Snyder. Pretty much you're reading the same key every single time. Kids can align the same every way. When you get to a Columbia City where everything is different, it requires absolute perfection on where your eyes are. The second you decide that you want to put your eyes on the quarterback, or you want to put your eyes on the fullback or the guy that's going in motion, the second you do that, 50-yard gain, because you're not in the right spot. So the biggest challenge is eye discipline. Where are your eyes every single play? Are you aligned correctly? And where are your eyes? What are you supposed to be reading versus where are you actually looking? And you have them as sophomores. That's hard to do as a sophomore. It's hard to do as a junior. And then you start to figure it out as kids get older. And then you also have the DBs. The DBs think they want to start getting into those plays. Well, I want to make a tackle. They're not throwing the ball. I want to make a tackle. And they start coming up 5-6 yards, and there's a right over your head behind you. So you've got to make sure that you do only your responsibility every single time.
You mentioned, the progression, junior, sophomore, junior year. A lot of these seniors now that have seen this Columbia City offense. How much of last year's film did you watch? I mean, you won, I believe, 35-0. And is that something you almost have to throw away because you don't want the kids to get inflated sense of belonging? Because they dominated that game.
Correct. Both things of what you said. You throw it away in the aspect of the score, but you are able to still bring up, because the plays are the same. Everything that they run is the same as the previous year. And you show them a positive and you show them a negative. And the great part is, with it being the same kids, you can show the same kid, look what happened when you did it correctly.
Right.
When you did it correctly.
Made a mistake.
Correct.
Yep.
Look what happened. Tackle for loss, no yard gain. Here's the spot where you were looking in the wrong spot. You went inside instead of going outside. You ran around the blocker instead of trying to go through it. And
it resulted in this.
Yep. So you use it for that. But they are a much different team than they were last year. So you can't just focus on it. But we did spend a day where we watched last year's game.
Okay. Well, Jeff, I'm going to ask one more question, then I'll cue you up. Coach, tell our viewers a little bit about your background as a player. You're a East Noble grad, a Kendallville guy, and then kind of your coaching pedigree as well.
Yeah, okay. I went to East Noble. I was a freshman in 2004. I graduated in 2008. So my freshman year is the year we went undefeated, and we lost to Plymouth in the sectional. So we had an undefeated regular season, lost to Plymouth in the sectional. And then so I graduated in 2008. I ended up going to Taylor University in Upland I played football there and got an elementary education degree and played for Ron Korfmacher. And then the second I graduated, I came straight back to East Snowball. I knew that's where I wanted to be. I kind of told you guys when we were up eating pizza, I forced my way onto the staff. I found Luke Amstutz at a banquet and walked up to him and asked him what I had to do to get on staff. And at that point, I was the DB's coach in 2013 when we lost to Dwenger for the sectional championship at St. Francis, and had no intentions outside of just I wanted to coach football and I wanted to do it at East Noble. And slowly, 2016, got the opportunity to be co-defensive coordinator with a guy named Cliff Hannon, who's now the middle school assistant principal. So he and I sat at a bar in Layado, the Layado Brewery, and we came up with what we wanted to run, and we ran it together in 16 and 17 and then 2018. And then in 2019, he went back over to the offensive side of the ball. And so ever since then, I've been solo. And so 19, cool. the defense that he and I built together, we took to a state championship appearance.
Very cool. And you had an occasion to meet Coach Fox down at Taylor, correct?
Yeah.
Tell
that's
that,
actually
that bit.
That's where Coach Fox and I met. He was a coach while I was a player there. So we have outside ties outside of this rivalry here.
Nice. That's a great story. Jeff, what else you got for Coach?
How about those Trojans 4-0, then lost a heartbreaker last week at home to Marion?
Yeah, I'm excited for him. My college roommate's actually their defensive coordinator, Jared Bodie. So I text him all the time. Yeah, I'm excited for him. It's a tough place because you got St. Francis right around there. You've got IWU, who's now got a football program. So you're all competing for the same kids. And they just kind of went to the same kind of offense with that Columbia City runs. And so they're starting to put up some massive points and having a lot of fun.
But Coach, you talked about growing up through the East Noble system. I mean, you guys start playing together like fourth grade, would you say?
Yeah, we have a really, really good youth program. If you're ever wondering why good programs are good, it's the youth program and it's the middle school program. And so, yeah, these kids that are seniors have played together for a lot of years, and that you get more buy-in from parents, you get more buy-in from kids when you're able to start them young.
Coach, I just want one more question, and then we'll cut you loose. Thank you again for coming down. Yeah. We talked about this a little upstairs. My memory of East Noble football as a Bishop Dwenger graduate, a young sports writer at the News Sentinel, and then starting game night was East Noble football was not that good. And then, of course, Coach Tim Abel came along, got that elusive state championship, and then Coach Depew came on board, kind of kept the tradition alive, and the Coach Amstutz, now Coach Stewart and yourself. That's pretty unusual. A lot of times these dormant programs don't have a resurrected type year, and then they sustain it for 30 years, 25 years. You guys have up in Kendallville. What's been the secret, you think?
Biggest thing is continuity. Like we said, right when those teams started winning, that's when that youth program, those kids that won that state championship, that was the first youth program in Kendallville, where they had gone through it. They'd gone through the youth program, they'd gone through the middle school, and then up to the high school. So that's where it all starts. And then,
but there had to be people there to keep them going while the high school was losing above them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perpetually, correct?
And that's where a lot of the parents got involved into that. And then the parents became coaches. And then, you've got Abel, who ended up taking it to a state championship and winning it with some really, really good players. And then he left, and then Chris Depew took over, and it just kept rolling.
Yep.
And then Luke took over straight from there. And so, we've had 2022 was our first losing season since 2001, which at a 4A program, that's not normally heard of. And somehow and sportscasters have said it all throughout this year. They keep saying we've got a bunch of 80% guys. You have a Dylan Crail, but you've got a bunch of 80%. But if you could give me 11 80%, they're willing to give you everything they have on every single play, we'll win games with them. So
that's enough.
That's what it is. And the middle school program, Matt Bennett has been in our middle school program for over 10 years now. So
you got to have those guys.
Yeah, you've got to have it. He's been running our middle school program forever. And when you have that continuity all the way through, you can build something that's really successful.
Well, it's the buy-in from the top down, and it started with Coach Abel, and it's sustained itself now for the better part of a quarter century. So congratulations for being part of that, Coach.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, we are out of time right now. I'm going to run Coach upstairs. This has been East Noble defense coordinator Ryan Robertson joining us on Around the Fort. Good luck tomorrow night, Coach.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back in a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Timing.
Why choose Kelly Chevrolet? We offer a wide selection of new and used inventory with a team that guides you to your perfect fit. Our certified pre-owned options ensure peace of mind with warranties and rigorous inspections. Competitive pricing, flexible financing, and convenient trade and services, making your dream Chevrolet a reality. Trust our experienced service team to keep your vehicle in top shape, and enjoy free car washes as long as you own your vehicle.
Welcome back, everybody. Around the Fort, Casey is walking Coach out, and he'll be back down in the cave in a little bit. We're going to flash up. Here it is. Columbia City 6-0, East Noble 5-1. Huge game tomorrow in Kendallville. Everybody likes to say, get there early to get your pork burgers. Brett Fox is in his 11th year at Columbia City, and really that school has turned that program around immensely ever since, you know, they built their new campus and they got the wonderful facilities over there with the Eagles. East Noble, Alex Stewart's in his first year at 5-1. It's his 10th year overall. He came from Western High School, a school that's in the same division as like Logansport and West Lafayette. So a very, very good division in that Hoosier Conference. And I'm going to tell you what, Coach Alex Stewart, under his watch, that offense looks just as great as it always has. The defense, we just got done talking about it. It's been phenomenal. What Columbia City is doing this year, you can see in the Sagarin ratings, they're actually ranked higher than East Noble at an 87.86. Of course, East Noble does have that one loss on the season. That was against 6A Snyder, the reigning 5A state champions. One of the better defenses in the state the Panthers have. And that was on that weird Friday night where a lot of the games did not resume after halftime because of lightning. And thank the Lord that they did call that, because the lightning really didn't stop until about 1 a.m. So East Noble had to go back to Kendallville and then come back to Fort Wayne to play the second half against the Panthers. And that 21-14 halftime deficit ended up ballooning. I believe it was, it was 14-10, Snyder on top. And then coming back the next day, Snyder outscored them 21-0. But I think that loss right there is what's been keeping East Noble down in the rankings. In the state rankings now, they are above Leo. They just jumped over Leo, well, actually tied with Leo at 7, and Columbia City comes in ranked number 5. So East Noble, it's weird that you would be tarnished for a loss against Snyder. You feel like you should be rewarded for putting a powerhouse program like that on your schedule, but is what it is. Columbia City beat New Haven 70-0 last week. Of course, East Noble beating Norwell 42-0. Welcome back, Casey.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. That was a great interview. It's the first time I've met Coach Robertson. He's got a great beard, first and foremost. I'm always marvel at people's follicles. This week we delve into that here in a little bit on the center spread, but great beard. And I think he said that he will grow that out it's always starts fairly manageable going into the camp in August, and he'll keep it. He won't trim it unless they lose. And so the last couple of years, Leo has forced him to trim that up, and that hasn't been the case this year. I don't know where Snyder fit in. I don't know if that's a conference thing or not, but again, great interview. I love his energy. You can his passion for coaching, and he's done a great job. I mean, their defense has been really, really good, and they've got their hands full. Tomorrow night, we'll talk a little bit more about that game here in a little bit. So we might as well just jump right into it.
Yes, sir.
Let's go right again. That cover. Shout out to Reggie Telemack. I mean, each week the covers are just so much fun. I love all the color there. Dylan's Domain, that I sent him that headline, and he made a whole, I don't know, sorcery type theme that carried over into the center spread too with the all hair team. So just a fun cover. Pile of swords there. It's the first time there's been a pile of swords on the cover of Game Night, I'm pretty sure. And Dylan, again, like Coach said, is so deserving. I mean, me personally, I like having multiple kids sometimes on the cover because I always hate, putting a bullseye on anybody's back. But I mean, Dylan can handle it, the bullseye, and he deserves the recognition. I mean, he's just been a fantastic player for 3 years, and he wanted me to give you some love, Jeff, and said, "You're his man. You're my boy, Blue." He didn't say it like that, but that's kind of how I heard it. So,
yeah, for
Dylan,
sure.
if you're watching, congratulations on a great season. Keep rolling, my man.
Yeah, Greg. And you also have Drew Fleek up here from Woodland as a player of the week. And, another person that we should really be shouting out is Brock Rohrbacher in his first year. He has the Warriors now 3-3 on the season. They're at Prairie Heights, at South Adams, and host Adams Central. They could be over 500.
Yeah, for sure. Brock's done a nice job, a little slow out of the gate, but the Warriors are doing really good things lately, including 21 zip over Jay County last week. And, full transparency, Drew played on my summer ball team a couple summers with the Indiana Tigers. And so I'm a little biased in that regard, but great kid from a great family and very, very deserving. Drew Fleek had a great, great game last week.
4-sport athlete. How often do you say that?
Not very often, and he's good at all of them.
Yes.
I know he wants to play college baseball. He's also a big Purdue fan. Yes. Jackson, you've been muted for a reason. Folks, if you're just now tuning in, Jackson Geiger will be an IU fan by the end of the fall.
Trust me.
After they put a thumping on your Boilers here in a month or so. But I digress. All right, let's get into it, Jeff. Let's jump to the next page, if you wouldn't mind. The mid-season rewards, maybe 2 minutes on this. Jackson, will you start that timer for me? Thanks, buddy. Jeff, I don't know if you had time to look at this yet or not, but a lot of times we'll delve a little deeper into the categories this year because of space and because we've had so many great games. It didn't really happen, but the three categories that the Swami talked about this particular week for potential postseason award winners was Player of the Year. And I think there's a lot of candidates. There's some guys that aren't on there too. I mean, I've got 3 or 4 names swirling around in my head.
Oh yeah,
that aren't on the short list in that column. And then Newcomer of the Year, same thing. I do feel like Bluffton's quarterback's kind of head and shoulders above most right now. He's just having a phenomenal season for the Tigers, and they are undefeated. We just kind of forget about him a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then Coach of the Year, again, a lot of great candidates, and certainly somebody makes a deep postseason run, perhaps they pull ahead. But man, Chris DePuy, it's hard to argue 6 weeks in against Chris DePuy. What are your thoughts on some of those, Jeff?
First time I saw that picture, that absolute no-brainer. Chris DePuy right now, especially what they did last week at West Noble, is your Coach of the Year. I don't even think that you can pick somebody that's a close second in my mind. I just feel like he's done such a great job this year. Player of the Year candidates, Casey, holy moly. Tristan Newsome, Kemar Nelson, you got Jimmy Sullivan, Dylan Krell. You've got so many guys, Eli Tagulis. You got so many guys to choose from this year. that's going to be a tough one. And every single week, it seems like you see somebody and it's like, ooh, they might be the Northeast Indiana Game Night Player of the Year.
Yep.
So this might be one of the harder years for it, Casey.
Well, no doubt. I mean, right now, if I had to be pressed, I think I would lean towards Jimmy, the Iowa recruit. He's just, quietly put up really, really good numbers. They've won 4 straight games. They play great competition. And then I think you also have to look at the 2 fellows out at Leo. Brock Schott, the way he started the season, right, with, just a dominant game against Bishop Luers, and kind of has been held in check a little bit, truthfully, since then, at least statistically. Stratton Fuller out at Columbia City. Again, the numbers are very pedestrian right now. He's still amongst our leaders. And you feel like, it's kind of unfortunate or unfair, a kid like that's not in the running right now because the numbers are so quiet. Well, no one throws his way, for starters. And that may explain in part why Gavin Smith has 6 interceptions. And then, of course, I get the feeling that Coach Fox and the offensive coaches at Columbia City are saving him for a meaningful, really meaningful game like we might have tomorrow night. Yeah. So we'll see. But he also could maybe make a dent in the return game. Brandon Logan was another name that I mentioned in my column. Pretty darn good football player going to Notre Dame.
Yep.
He's had to play a little more offense this year, but again, people are throwing away from him. If he gets a little bit more action offensively or in the return game, all of a sudden his stock rises. So to your point, Jeff, I think this race is far from over, but it's going to be a fun one to watch. I don't ever recall, especially in the senior class, this kind of star power across the board in multiple conferences.
And lest we forget Seth Pruitt, the running back from West Noble.
1 loss, and we just poured dirt all over the poor Chargers from Ligonier. You're right. Wes Pruitt for sure. Braden Holbrook up at Lakeland. Yep. He could make a late run.
Or Arroyo.
Kean Arroyo.
Yes.
Kean Arroyo on both sides of the ball, amongst the top leaders in interceptions and receiving yards. So yeah, there is so much. And you're gonna get me in trouble here, Jeff. Right? We talk about this long enough. So thank you for that. Let's jump out of that real quick. Concordia Cadets, man, it's hard to believe. It seems like 2 years ago that they started the season 2-0, and they've kind of just fallen on hard times. A team that wants to throw the ball. What a tough matchup last week against Southside in that weather. I do believe if the weather cooperates, maybe they find a way to get it done. But hats off to the Archers. Again, that's where I'm wearing Kelly Green for our B. Antonio's Team of the Week. Swami took some pizzas out to them last night, and they were very happy.
Well deserved. And I will say this about Concordia. They still put it up 32 times this past Friday. Not many teams threw it that many times.
Yeah, for sure. And Jack Andrews has been the primary guy. I like to call him the leprechaun. The weather's going to be great tomorrow night. So hopefully he settles in and has a nice game. And a kid like Avery Cook maybe could have a huge performance, because I'm waiting for him to kind of have that signature game. And then at the bottom there, the PFJ sparkling play of the week. That I just love that picture by John Martin. And I love the cutouts. I'm a big fan of the cutouts. It takes me back to my childhood reading, Athlin's, Street and Smith, USA Today, all those that did cutouts. I love that kind of stuff. And there's a great picture of that young man. Help me with this. Max Jordan. Max Jordan. That's Henry Jordan's little brother, the starting quarterback. And Jeremy Rady is a friend of mine who is a youth coach here locally, and he said it's the best athlete he's ever coached. And I believe it. You can tell he's going to be a stud here soon for Bishop Dwenger. He had a fake punt last week that kind of took the momentum away from Northrop, and then the Saints went down and finished it with a drive and a score to pull away. But yeah, I love that picture. Thank you for showing it.
Yeah, just real quick, Concordia still not having Jack Belshner. That is just such a huge loss for a team that doesn't have a whole lot of depth. People can key in on Avery Cook. And these uniforms, shout out to Bishop Dwenger and head coach Jason Garrett changing it up a bit. I remember you said something, Casey, and now I see what you were saying.
I almost let the cat out of the bag. last week, and my son probably wouldn't have talked to me, but no, they turned out really cool. It was for homecoming. Granted, the weather didn't really cooperate, of course, but they are cool. The gold uniforms are like a camo thing, and then they had numbers on the helmets. I don't know if you can see that for the first time ever.
No.
They had numbers on the helmet, so my son had 70 on the side of his helmet, and then they got to pick like a first responder sticker of some kind, and Caden chose, I believe, the fire department first responders. So yeah, well done, and first time ever wearing navy blue pants. That was pretty cool.
Yep,
for sure. All right, let's jump into this. Maybe give us 3 minutes here. And Jake's not well. Is Jake here? All right, Jake's going to be here any second. Jeff, I'll have you fill in for Jake, but I'll start. Bishop Lures at Bishop Dwenger. What can you say? The Battle of the Bishops. You know, you can throw records out. It's a rivalry game. There's going to be a ton of emotion. The Bishop will be out there. The weather's going to be beautiful. And Shields Field will be hopping. They're going to do a lot of their homecoming festivities that they put on hold last week, tomorrow night. So it'll have a homecoming type atmosphere. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think Lures has to be considered the favorite, having won 5 straight games. And Coach Lindsay's, you know, they didn't look particularly well late in their week 1 loss to Leo. In my opinion, they kind of crumbled just a little bit. They learned from that. Now they win close games. Yes. You look at their scores. They're in a close game. They find a way to win them. And I just think this is a great matchup. It is every year. And again, you can kind of throw out records, so to speak. And I'll be curious to see what your take is on this.
Well, I think it's kind of been the same take all year long, is that Bishop Lures is going to have to get the passing game really rolling in this one against the Saints, because this Bishop Dwenger defense, I think that they're really going to be able to slow down Dario Williams. Williams, who's been, once again, he could be a player of the year candidate with 10 touchdowns, averaging 7 yards per carry. But you just keep waiting for, when is this Lures passing game going to get going? Because if it doesn't, I think the Saints very well could win this game with the defense that they have.
Well, their defense has been phenomenal. They've got great special teams, too. I mean, they've converted some fake punts this year. We know about their kicker, Lucas Wynn. He was featured last week in game night by Jake the Snake. So they've got some weapons there. Angel Rojas is a pretty darn good kicker.
Yes.
The senior out at Bishop Lures, too. And I think that's a great matchup. Lures has definitely an edge in the speed department. Especially with their skill guys. So the Saints are going to have to contain them in the return game, and then certainly in the passing game. But yeah, Dwenger's defense has been phenomenal. And Coach Dan Nepper, who we had on a few weeks ago, really has done a great job pushing all the right buttons. They're slowly getting some guys back into the mix on both sides of the ball. So they're starting to get healthier. And it feels like a really important game for both teams. Bishop Lures to keep that momentum rolling, and then Bishop Dwenger to just kind of get a little bit closer to 500 with this brutal schedule. Jake the Snake is joining us, 10-2. I can see he's driving very carefully. Jake, we're talking Battle of the Bishops. I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you give us about 30 seconds on this one?
Boys, can you hear me?
We can.
I love it. It's rivalry week. Am I right?
Yep.
Let's go.
Yeah,
hey,
check
man.
your blind spots, please. You're making me nervous.
Oh, I'm great. I've got peripherals at 10-2. I'm great. I'm going to pull over here in just a second so I don't break up. But yeah, man, Battle of the Bishops. Defense and run game, baby. Lures has got a heck of a run game, but I'm telling you what, Casey, your Saints, they are looking fierce on the defense. I love the way that they utilize the linebacker position. I think the D-line's improving. I think that one's going to be a little bit of an old school slugfest. And I think that game could go either way. I think it's going to come to some second half adjustments. Can Dwenger open up and pass just a little bit when they need to? That's probably going to be the key to the game, to who gets the edge. But that's going to be a great, great matchup. Excellent.
All right, well, let's jump out of this. Jeff, you and I are going to tackle this next one. Give me 4 minutes, if you would, Jackson. Carroll at Homestead. I mean, this is that throwback game from the old Northeast Hoosier Conference days, and you think about Carroll and Homestead and where those two schools have come from, Jeff, they used to both be considered kind of farm schools and kind of, medium to moderate enrollment. And now they're big 6A schools and a lot of talent, great coaching staffs. What are your thoughts on this one, Jeff?
Well, Carroll didn't have to show a whole lot last week. They were able to get it done on the ground with Nate Starks and Jimmy Sullivan. So this is going to be an interesting game because people look at Homestead. Oh, they're coming off the big loss against Snyder, 35-0 against the Panthers. But you're not playing without your starting quarterback. You're not playing without your number one receiver in Carter Kennedy, and Evan England. You take him away from wide receiver and put him back at quarterback. I mean, really making it tough against that Snyder defense. You get those guys back, and from what I understand, those are all game time decisions.
Yes, so that's what I'm hearing too.
Yeah, you're hoping with another week to get more healthy and this, that, and the other, that Homestead will be close to 100%. Putting Sam Stewart in the backfield is a total difference maker for Homestead. He's the Purdue commit that's a linebacker, and he had a play last week. It did get called back, but he had a play where he was pulling away from Brandon Logan running down the sideline. So that shows you some serious speed. I like this game a lot. Carroll they're just getting better and better, just refining everything. I think that this could be a breakout game for Jimmy passing the ball.
Well, the weather's going to cooperate for sure. And I think there's a huge advantage there with the receivers from Carroll against the defensive backs from Homestead, especially the corners. They're kind of smaller. And I think that's an opportunity for Carroll to exploit some things in the passing game. So I agree with you there, Jeff. It'll come down to, in my opinion, if Michael White can play. He had an ankle injury a week ago, and he was kind of a late scratch right before the Snyder game. If he's able to play and he's 100% and can stay on the field, and I'm with you, Sam Stewart, I'd run him a little bit more.
Yes. In
the Wildcat, the Saints a couple weeks ago did not have an answer to that particular formation in play, and I think if he's able to get, let's say 8, 10, 12 carries instead of 3 or 4, and they're difference makers against that Carroll defense, because let's face it, Carroll's defense can be susceptible to the run. And Bishop Dwinger had some good rushing yards against the Chargers a few weeks ago. If Homestead can run the ball with any semblance of success, they'll hang around in this game, and especially with it being out in Spartingland. Homestead through the years, especially under Coach Zolman, it seems like when they lay an egg or they have a tough loss, whether it's a heartbreaker or a blowout, they have a tendency to come back the next week and really perform at a high level, Jeff. At least that's been their MO, in my opinion. Would not be surprised at all if they came back tomorrow night and put up a spirited effort. I still think Carroll has to be a prohibitive favorite. They've won the last 3 or 4 pretty decisively. I think we have to go back to 2021 maybe, and Homestead beat them 70-41. Holy mackerel, there was some scoring that night. We could have a similar showing tomorrow night, especially if Michael White's healthy.
If you're Homestead, you'd like to see a Nate Starks type back in the backfield. I mean, graduating Brett Fox was a huge loss because they really don't have that kind of scat back in the backfield right now that I've seen.
Well, Jake Thrash is the guy, right? Yep. And he's capable. He runs hard. He's a little different runner, of course, than Brett Fox. He's going to need to step up and have a big game tomorrow night. And then again, maybe Sam Stewart picks up some of the slack with the rushing totals. All right.
And that's what I'm saying, just to kind of complement the power running from Thrash and Stewart.
Yes, for sure. But yeah, they don't want to get into I don't think a shooting match necessarily, but that being said, if they're scoring points and hanging around, they'll take what they can get. All right, this next one, what a fun one. You guys are covering this game, I believe, Jeff.
Yep.
I almost called it the Battle of the Bishops. No, the Totem Pole game. And again, Southside Archers, I'm wearing the green for you guys this week. The team of the week after their 9-7 victory over Concordia last week, invading Northside Chambers Field, and another fun matchup here. Jake and Jeff, you guys are going to do this one. Jake, I'm going to turn it over to you first.
Yeah, obviously huge fan of both programs. Rivalry week is awesome. It's going to be very high energy. I think right off the cliff, you think that Northside has the edge, but I watched the entire second half of South's game last week against Concordia, and I love what they're doing defensively. They may be a little bit undersized in spots, but they really give you vibes of like a bend but don't break defense, and when they need big plays, they can make it happen. So obviously, going into a game like this, you want to play good defense, you want to keep the penalties and turnovers to a minimum, and you want to run the ball well, and I think they can do that. Especially out of some of the spread sets that they run, widen the field a little bit, run inside with that. But, man, you just can't say enough about Coach BJ and Northside with just the amount of athletes and talent they have all over the field. And that goes from kind of top to bottom, even some guys behind the scenes that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the recruiting article. There's just a lot of firepower on the north side of the football. I think Jeff would agree with that, especially in running back Caleb Kingley. But, you want to keep seeing South get better each week, and this is another game where it's like, man, this is rivalry week where you guys need to show up and give it your best and try to keep this game close and maybe make something happen at the end.
Yeah, absolutely, Jake. You talk about that defense. Avera White, their senior loaded, Dontrell Glaspie, and then we see Silas Portee right here. This is Josiah Malone, the running back, and Josiah was at Northside his freshman year, so a lot of emotions going to be going on in the offensive backfield. Southside has the kind of defense that can run sideline to sideline to help contain Tristan Newsome. I'm not sure if Caleb is going to be able to play. He's got an ankle tweak as well this Friday, but if they rely on Tristan as much as they have this year, I mean, almost every single week he's running for 150 yards and passing for 150 yards. If they need to rely on his run, I think Southside can come up with an answer to help slow that down. I still feel like Northside's a favorite in this one, but Southside is really turning the corner, Casey.
No doubt. And Jake, Archie did get a bath and a haircut for you, and he's really, really bummed that you blew him off. Okay, I'm just gonna point that out. He's look at him. He's walking around. He can hear your voice. He's so depressed.
I miss you too, pal. I miss you too. Hey, I also got a haircut and I did bathe, so we're on the same page already.
Oh, a bath even. Excellent. Well, Jeff, getting back to this, we'll jump back in. We've got about 30 seconds left. A great matchup. This is another one of those rivalry games that you can really throw out the records. I think Northside has to be probably a 3-score favorite just on talent alone. But without Caleb and that running back presence that they rely on with him when he's healthy, Tristan, they're asking him to do an awful lot, and he's really delivering. I know Coach BJ thinks he's player of the year right now, and he probably deserves some consideration for that. But if I'm Southside, I'm loading up the box, and I'm telling not just one spy, but maybe two on either side of the tackles saying, number 0 is your guy. And if we have to meet at the QB and smack heads, so be it. But somebody else has got to beat us besides Tristan Newsome, because he is a one-man wrecking crew right now. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see Southside employ that kind of defense tomorrow night.
Yeah, and we are all calling for – Jake started this last week as he's calling for favors out in the community. We're calling for a color clash game. We want all red uniforms and all green uniforms in this matchup at Chamber Field. Hopefully it happens.
It'll be fun. Let's see if we can't get that done. I love it.
Hey,
all right, this
Casey,
next one.
Can I say one quick last thing about Southside?
You bet.
I love what they're doing over there. Coach Goody has got it. And I know everybody's going, man, they just won their first game of the season. But you have to think about the way a program is structured. And for a coach to come in the way that he did, with kind of no disrespect to Southside, but their history, he's got them playing fundamental football. When you watch the tape and you see how rangy they are, how well they tackle, how well they play for each other, to have two kind of heartbreaker games in week 1 and week 2 to start the season and to still have the tenacity to come out against Concordia like that, it's the sign of them, like Jeff had alluded to, that they're getting ready to turn the corner. So Southside fans, stick with this guy because the sky's the limit for Southside Archers.
Jake, 30 more players are out this year than last year.
That's incredible.
That's it. Yeah, and winning is contagious. Now they haven't done a lot of that, but once they do, they'll have 30 more on top of that, and that's kind of how it works. And so, Coach Goody, again, the Swami was there last night. Those kids were so appreciative. They did a little clap thing, for the Swami in appreciation of the pizza, and I know they love their pies. So let's get out of this and jump into the Northeast 8, the game of the week, I think. Columbia City at East Noble. Jeff and Jake, you guys are going to tackle this, and I'll chime in at the end. Jeff, why don't you start? I think this is a great matchup.
Unbelievable matchup. And, I want to start with this guy that's pictured right here, Landon Fazio, number 3. I mean, this guy's unbelievable. 45 carries, averaging 12.3 yards per carry.
Filthy.
9 touchdowns on the season. Now, I love what Coach Robertson was talking about, the keys and playing your assignment. And the thing is, man, this is a senior-laden defense. They are going to definitely play their roles on Friday night. And I feel like East Noble plays its best against good competition. So I think it's going to be a fun one there. I can't wait to see what we get from the quarterback, Riley Biddle, over at East Noble. I mean, what you got from Krell, but Riley Biddle can absolutely sling it. When the ball leaves his hand, it's on a rope. I mean, I haven't seen it much this year around the 260, but Riley Biddle's special. And one of the things that I noticed that really makes him special is after the game doing a backflip in the center of the field. I mean, that's hard to do. If I did a backflip, I'd probably break my neck.
Silas Porti does backflips too, just so
That's
you know.
awesome.
Silas Porti does. I love a good. Archie does them, but only when Jake's here.
No, you're totally right, Jeff. It's as Columbia City fans are well, aware of hearing every year. It's like, the start of the season is just a padded schedule for you guys, and you can't be responsible for how the schedule is laid out. I will say that next year, I believe Columbia City is done with Busco on their contract, so I believe it's either Northwood or Northridge that they're picking up to get some additional out-of-conference competition. But
nice.
Speaking about this game, I was critical of our offensive line to start the season and how that's looked, and these guys have gelled. They're healthy at the right time. Man, they are popping pads. They're a fundamentally sound team. Coach Fox has got them dialed in. I think that the offense for Columbia City is very strong. Last week, they had 9 ball carriers touch the football. So I know that score was pretty lopsided. It seemed like maybe they were trying to run the score up. That wasn't really the case. It was just everybody got to run the football last week, and that shows you how deep Columbia City is in running the ball. But the defense of East Noble is very, very fundamentally sound. They're attacking, and the way they play, they tackle well. And, I know that you guys talked about Dylan Krell earlier, but it's just a guy that I feel like they have to key in. Columbia City does defensively the same way that they did in the DeKalb game, and it's just going to be tough to do that. Dylan is arguably the best running back in the NE8. That's probably up for debate, and then as a two-way player at linebacker, he contributes in so many ways. Man, this game could go either way. Both defenses are stout. Both secondaries are stout. They both have good wide receivers. Both teams have good quarterbacks with Bradbury and Biddle and Riley Biddle. I think Biddle has played great. He's got a beautiful deep ball. He's got a couple receivers to throw to. This is going to be a great one. This is game of the week to me.
Snake, let me ask you from a Columbia City perspective. Last year, the Eagles lost 35-zip. That game kind of got away from them early, and they kind of got away from what they wanted to do after they fell down 14-0. What do you do from a coaching standpoint with this year's matchup in terms of flushing last year's game? Is it as simple as saying, hey, we're putting that behind us?
Well, it's a great point you make, Casey, because you go 2 years prior and look when they ran the table, and the only loss they had was to Delta when they won the sectional and conference championships, and it was a different type of game. And then you look at last season, and that is the make or break of this offense in the flex bone. If you start getting where you're a couple scores down, the playbook doesn't necessarily work in your favor offensively on coming back from that deficit. So Columbia City cannot have mistakes in this game. You can't have a special teams gaff. There can't be a lot of turnovers because Dylan Krell and that offensive line is going to make you pay. And they are, make no mistake, East Noble is going to score points in this game. It's can Columbia City match them, match their intensity and their work rate through the game? I think that they can, but that's a great point, Casey. You can't let this thing slip away earlier. There's just not enough in the passing arsenal. And Bradbury's great, and he's got Faust and he's got Stratton Fuller, but playing down in this offense is difficult.
Hey, Jake, from preseason to where we are right now, what are the biggest improvements that you've seen from this Columbia City team? What is it throughout the course of the regular season that maybe you didn't see in the preseason that's made them 6-0?
Well, it's crazy how many different family members are kind of related in this team, and you really feel that the bond of these guys, the Firth Miller brothers are on the team, the McIntosh brothers are on the team, the Berry brothers. Zach Berry's a senior now, and his little brother's a sophomore, I believe. It's just crazy the amount of brothers and family that they've got, and that's county football for you when everybody's kind of growing up together. And I saw that one of the McIntosh boys had actually gotten to speak to the media, and he had said it best. It's like these guys they're just out there having fun. They're playing for each other. They're playing loose. And I think that's what they needed to do. I think there's so much pressure at Columbia City because the front of the schedule is considered a little weaker that you have to perform that or you're written off early. And now they've gotten through that. And I feel like they're playing loose and they're playing good, fundamentally sound football at the right time. And what a great time for that to happen with East Noble and Leo, coming up.
And there's a lot of Smith boys, too, on the roster, I noticed, too. I don't know if those are Xander's brothers running around up there or what's going on.
There's a lot of Smith relation in Whitley County. Unfortunately, those aren't our people, but they are great people. And, yeah, Gavin Smith's a great one, too. I mean, that's the 99-yard pick six that he had. The Columbia City back end, I think, is something very similar to Leo and the types of players that they have with, like, Hepner. And I think Columbia City can stay in this game and can win, but like you guys mentioned, they can't let it get away from them early.
All right, let's get to the next page here. Thank you, Jake. This was another fun piece. We didn't do a hair issue last year, and maybe not even 2 years ago. I don't remember, Jeff, but just felt right this year. I don't know. I just love some of these hairdos. And any thoughts on this, Jeff? Did you get a chance to digest any of this today?
Yeah, you got the classic fro there from Nussbaum. I like that. We got a little color, it looks like, with Adrian Scott. Maybe he's got some red up there. Nice mullet by Hill. I don't know what's going on. That's Alex Foytik.
I think it's Fodik. I think it's pronounced Fodik.
Fodik?
Yeah.
That kind of looks like the Dolph Lundgren, from Rocky. I don't know.
Swami called Julius Caesar. It was a Julius Caesar thing going on.
That's what it is. So, yeah, no, looks good.
And look at the handlebar mustache by Ryder Ham at Adams. I think the first time ever. That's a legit handlebar mustache.
It really
That'll
is.
get you a Harley Davidson at any dealership you go into.
It was like mustache. Jeff Mahoney loves the handlebar.
That's right.
And then, of course, a couple of girls there. One of those girls, I believe, Elia, I think is how you pronounce that, Brooks on the left. I think she was on their
flag football
community schools flag football team. Yeah, that won a championship. So
very cool.
I think I saw that on the news. So congrats to her and her sister there. And hopefully they got some pizza last night. A couple of those big boys, that giant beast, Ragsdale. Oh, my mercy, that kid's huge. He came out, and I think he took like 3 pizzas himself. He might have put a couple of them in the back of his car. I don't know. But at any rate, yeah, thanks for putting that up. That was a fun piece. If you need a good laugh, check that out. And all those kids are good sports. All right, a couple more bonus games here as we move along into the 2 more SAC games. Let's do 2 minutes on these, if you wouldn't mind, Jackson. Snyder at Northrop. Let's see. I've got Jeff. Why don't you tackle this one? And if Jake or I have anything of substance, we'll help out.
Yeah, Snyder, I think this is going to be a game for them that they're not going to want to show too much. Man, Landon Fry was in the offensive backfield all night long last week against Homestead. And boy, does he seal the edge, Jake. When he gets his hands on you, I mean, the wall is created. Total difference maker back there at fullback. And with the 2 running backs, I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Jordan Davis and Braylon Burton. You had Braylon Burton listed as maybe one of the newcomers of the year. And I think that's fantastic, especially because he's a freshman, but he doesn't really look like a freshman out there with his body type. And the thing I like about Braylon Burton is he initiates contact, Casey. If he's running on a straight line and he sees a defender out of his peripherals, we heard Uriah Buchanan talk last year about using his peripherals when he's walking the hallways and how that helped him on the football field. When Braylon Burton sees somebody with an attack angle, he will engage that attack angle and really what that allows him to do is initiate the contact where he doesn't get hit and lose balance. I mean, his yak yardage has got to be second to none in the SAC this year, where he gets hit and falls forward for another 5 yards. For Northrop, you'd like to see them just continually get better and better week in, week out. I mean, the passing game with Quay, who I think he just got offered by Kansas this week, is
yes, he did.
What maybe I saw. And so you just want to see all those guys, get going. But it seems like there's been a lot of distraction around Northrop, and you hope that doesn't filter into this game and both teams can put their best effort forward.
Yeah, for sure. I think Northrop, they have some pieces there for sure. They got to get better defensively, no doubt about it. Last week against Bishop Dwenger, the Saints really were able to do a lot offensively, more so than they had to this point in the season. But Northrop is improving. It may not have showed all the way in the scoreboard. They got 2 scores late in that game to make the score much closer than it really was. But Coach Q is trying to build something there. They've got all the parts on offense to put up some numbers. And here's the key. Mother Nature is going to cooperate tomorrow night, whereas a week ago it was a monsoon. And if you're a passing team, last week was the definition of a nightmare. This week it's going to be gorgeous. And who knows, maybe Northrop will rise up and make this a competitive game with that passing attack. And if they don't turn it over, they could hang around in this one.
Yeah, they did it 3 years ago. Remember in the first round of the playoffs when they
Yes.
took on Snyder, and everybody thought Snyder was going to roll them by 28 points, and I think it ended up being like a 7-point, 3-point game.
Almost shocked the world for sure. That was with Coach Jason Dorfler at the helm.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Well, let's talk about the next game here. We've got Wayne at Concordia. I'll start, and then maybe one of you guys can finish. 2-3 Wayne Generals. I think they've got to be the best 2-3 team in the state. They may be the only 2-3 team in the state because of that cancellation there in week 2. But man, they almost got Carroll again last week. And say what you want about the weather, I'm sure that was a little bit of an equalizer with Jimmy Sullivan not being able to throw it around like he'd like to. But Kamar Nelson, I got to make a shout out here. We joke a lot, guys, about Kamar's tackling stats and are they cooking the books out there, and that's Annie. Hi, Annie. And here's the deal. So I looked at the stats that were submitted by Wayne last week, and I believe they had Kamar for 17 solo tackles. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. 17, right. The Carroll stat guy, who I actually saw at B. Antonio's last night when I was picking up pizzas for Southside, Ryan Schwab is his name. He said, I told him this story. I said, I saw your stats come in. I think he had them for 21 solos.
Holy
Think
cow.
of that. And so that, to me, that validates, and it kind of just, again, we were just poking fun. We're not being serious, but it just shows you how dominant this kid is. And we're all scratching our head like, what are colleges waiting for? This kid needs to be playing college football somewhere. He's phenomenal. And I think he's an outside linebacker at the next level and will play at a really high level. I think he can play Division I football.
Yes. And to your point, he jumps 20 feet in the long jump, and he's one of the top 200 guys in track in the city. So come on.
Yeah. He's a freak
With
athlete.
that frame.
Yes. And he plays with an edge and a nastiness to him. No brainer. I don't know what it takes. I mean, if I'm St. Francis trying any of these schools, I'm courting him hard because it looks like he's going to be one of those diamonds in the rough.
I would be shocked if he fell to a St. Francis or a Trine. I would too, but where are the other offers coming from? They're not, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, and real quick here, give us a reset on that. Concordia,
good. This is a team wants to throw the ball. If the weather cooperates, they can hang around in this game. And I think they've got some guys on the defensive side of the ball. We mentioned a lot of them in game night this week that don't get the credit that they deserve. Perhaps this is a week that maybe they rise up and are competitive against a team that, everybody thinks is going to beat them handily. So we'll see. I know Coach Manigault, it seems like a long time ago that they were 2-0, doesn't it, guys?
Oh, yeah. But I'll say this. If Harold Mack starts from game one, then Wayne right now is 4-1 on the season.
The mad scientist. Yeah, how does he do it? Yeah, you're right. Sherwood's excited about that change, and now we just, you got to keep him healthy for sure. All right. Some of these games, there's 3 more games here on the other side. Let's see. I think I got Jake the Snake taking this first one. Huntington North at Leo, 4-2 Vikings. Wow. Look at that. Mike Eschbach was not mentioned as possible coach of the year. He deserves some, especially if he wins this game tomorrow night. What are your thoughts on this one, Jake?
I agree. Big fan of his offense. I love the way that he runs it and operates it. And the longer that it is installed year after year, it's only going to get better. You can, look at Coach Dorfler and how he's done at Leo. The longer time he's there, the more touch he gets on that team offensively and the better it gets. And the same could be said for the Vikings. And yeah, a lot to build off of there. Great season. A buddy of mine that I coached quarterback in junior football with, Trent Patak, his son is a senior this year. Mason Patak over at Huntington North, and great kid, a great team. They're improving defensively. They can run the ball efficiently. I think Leo's a tall task, and I think that Leo is on a mission now to prove that the East Noble game, wasn't, what it was all cracked up to be. They want to make a run here and pound everybody, and unfortunately, I think the Vikings are going to be in the way of that wrath. But this is a great opportunity with the weather, like you said earlier, Casey, that the Vikings should be able to throw the ball a little bit. One thing I will say about, Leo's secondary is when I did watch the East Noble game on my way up to the UP, Hepner actually made a good read on a through ball, maybe a skinny post or a seam up the middle, and he kind of got riddled up in the turf and kind of fell down. So it was kind of a busted play, and that was a big momentum change in that game too. So that was not on Hepner, but when you start looking at Huntington North wants to be able to run the ball to then build off with the pass or the spread. With guys like Hepner, it's going to be a little bit tougher than what you're normally used to seeing. So should be a great game, though.
Yeah, it will be a great game. And I think Huntington North has been a great story all year long.
For sure.
Yeah, and you just can't help but kind of pull for the Vikings. It's neat to see some of these programs kind of rise from the ashes. And certainly Coach Eschbach's done a nice job there. And Leo's got to be a big favorite here. It's funny, though, Jake, you kind of mentioned it. We've kind of, how teams fall out of good graces with the media and everything else just over one game. I mean, you'd think that they were, 2 or 3 games under 500, the way we've kind of somewhat forgotten about them. But, again, that's the nature of the beast. And I think they know that. And truthfully, I bet they're okay with everybody putting them off the radar a little bit.
Right.
All right, add another minute on there for me, would you? Jackson, thanks, buddy. All right, this next one, Jeff, is all you. Heritage 5-1. Coach Hollinger doing a great job down in Monroeville. At 6-0 Bluffton. What can you say about Coach Kunkel and the Tigers? Take it away.
Well, this is probably 1A, 1B with game of the week. You can say the East Noble and Columbia City game. But this is going to be a fun one right here. Last year was one of the better games in the ACAC, really in the 2-6-0. You got high-powered talent on the offensive side with Tagulis. Tagulis now is nearly 1,200 yards passing on the season. Niceer Martin, Braden Walter. Niceer Martin's backup is Luke Weber, who's also a real threat for him. Bluffton's kind of loaded in the backfield when you look at what their quarterback's doing. Only a sophomore, but Casey, is it Bestie?
I think it's Best. I could be wrong. Axton Best, I believe. And his numbers are phenomenal.
Holy smokes. He's completing 77% of his passes, 13 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. Meanwhile, averaging 6.2 yards per rush with 5 touchdowns. And also you have Cooper Craig, the freshman sensation last year, now a sophomore, and Kamel Moore in the backfield, along with Strevler, the wide receiver, who's only a junior, but a fantastic player. I mean, this has the makings for fireworks all over the place. You got a nice picture of Braden Walter right there. Can he be stopped? I mean, he is a big wide receiver. He goes about 6'2", 6'3". That could be the combination with Eli Tagulas to Walter that maybe that defensive backfield at Bluffton doesn't have an answer for. But ultimately, the way Bluffton lost last year, now it's at their place. You got to give an edge to the Fighting Kunkles.
Yeah, it was 27-21 a year ago, and a little bit of an upset, if I remember correctly. I think almost everybody thought Bluffton was the favorite, and Heritage under Coach Kolkman rose up, got the dub, and that was kind of their signature win, I believe, a year ago on a fantastic season. They're having another great year this year, and my wife can attest, I'm not even a 75%, 77% completion rate when I use the restroom. Okay. Take that for what it's worth. All right, West Noble at Lakeland. I will tackle this one. Wow, how this game seems like it took a step back in terms of meaningfulness. 5-1 versus 5-1. You'd think it would be carrying a little more hype. Well, the Garrett Railroaders have beaten both of these teams, and they kind of stole that thunder. So it does feel like it's for second place right now, and it probably is. That being said, it's a great matchup, and these are two teams kind of on the northern edge of our coverage area. I know for all of us, I can speak for all of us, we hold a special place in our heart for both West Noble and Lakeland. We can't help but root for them and want to see the best for Coach Monty and Coach Ryan O'Shea at Lakeland. And I think this is a great matchup, and it's contrasting styles, right, guys? You got that methodical, Seth Pruitt attack rushing game, from West Noble. I wrote Seth Pruitt left, Seth Pruitt middle, Seth Pruitt right, and just pound. And then on the other side, you've got Braden Holbrook. And, again, we've talked a lot tonight about the weather being gorgeous tomorrow night. Maybe this could be one of those breakout games for him where he has a 350-yard night and puts up ridiculous numbers. But, again, Kean Arroyo is a guy, again, a sleeper pick for Player of the Year. He's just been phenomenal on both sides of the ball. They've got other playmakers up there as well. I think this is just a fun NECC, old school type matchup. And the fact that it's contrasting styles offensively, for my money, makes it very, very compelling. Jake, Jeff, do you guys want to add anything to that?
Well, Casey, you could say that this game got a little railroaded.
Oh, well done.
I was
played.
I was waiting. No, you're right, though. And obviously, if I could have my way, the only offense anybody would be legal to run is the air raid. I mean, I'm all about Lakeland. I love the way that Holbrook plays. He's, to me, it's a matter of time until he makes a selection on what MAC school he wants to play for. He is a MAC level Division I quarterback. Love the way that he plays, and I love the way that Coach utilizes him on the field. Also love, like you said, Coach Monty. I mean, Garrett's kind of got that Cinderella story. So, but don't take anything away from this game for number 2, because these are two great programs. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah,
sure.
I think.
And let's not forget. Hang on, Jeff. Sorry. Let's not forget. There could be a potential rematch, of course, with Garrett in the sectional, things moving around a little bit. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was just going to say, keep an eye out on Trey Schisler, the junior quarterback at West Noble. They were trying to get it done through the air. Very tough to do on the natural grass and the elements that we had last Friday. I think he could have a breakout game here for West Noble if the Chargers are going to win this one.
For sure. I think, again, it's going to be a fun matchup, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. All right, the next one here, we got some of the senior spotlights. Again, I love putting these together. Sometimes there's studs, stalwarts. Sometimes they're backup players, role players. Doesn't matter. I like just kind of throwing these guys out there. I'm going to get in trouble tonight because I didn't mention the senior spotlight on the Dwinger page. We might have to go back to that. Speaking of the 77 percentile in the bathroom, my wife will not be happy if we don't go back to the Dwinger page and mention the senior spotlight of one number 70. We better do that real quick.
There he goes.
Thank you, Jeff. There he is, that handsome fella. He's a legit 6'4.5", maybe 6'5", and he had a great game last week against Northrop. Got in some meaningful reps in the first half at tackle. I was really proud of him. And I've said it all along to you guys. If he was another 20, 25 pounds heavier, he, I think, would probably be garnering some collegiate opportunities because of that frame. And he works his tail off. And so does Joey Tittman above him. And, of course, Mason Vogelweed and all the other guys. Isaac Nicholson at center might be coming back. All right. Thank you, Jeff. I'm off the hook now.
Moment, man. Congrats.
Yeah, it's a proud dad moment. And I just want to make sure, because I don't always hit my intended target when I'm using the restroom. And so I have to save face with my beloved wife. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of these senior spotlights. A lot of fun ones. There's some funny answers in some of these. And I always like looking at you reading their favorite movies, their favorite food. I'm trying to think if there's anything on here that jumps out that I thought was fun. I thought Leaf Moylanen, he's a senior receiver at Dwenger. He was a 10-pound baby. Ouch. A big sucker, right? Darian Brown, nice picture of him. I like that some of the kids have their jewelry and their swag hanging down at the photo shoots. He's a big fan of shrimp Alfredo. And here's the thing. When I type these in, I found that almost all the food that these kids say, I find myself saying, yeah, that's probably my favorite food too. And that may explain why I'm fat.
Well, I love stuffed. I love stuffed bell peppers, so I'm with Quentin Thomas all the way.
That's the only one in all the years that I've typed that I said, who the hell likes stuffed bell peppers? And Jeff does. There we go. I hate stuffed bell peppers. I hate peppers, period. Thank you for bringing that up, Jeff. That's the first one, the only one. Everything else that these kids write, I'm like, yeah, I love that.
Homesteader's got a homestead, Snake.
I love it, man. I'm pumped for you, brother.
All right. Speaking of Snake, let's get into it. Jake, we're going to give you about 4 minutes here, maybe 3.5. Roll with it, man.
Hey, yeah, so this is another great article. Very, very pumped this week. And major sorry to Nate Foster. I had a great conversation with him on X this week. And it's just one of those things, man, when the highlight point of this article is that there's so many kids in the region already that have Power 5 offers, or they have 6 or 8 or 10 offers, and that's awesome and great because of the hard work they put in. They deserve those. We're always, so for people to kind of understand where the article's coming from, is it's like we're trying to help those kids that maybe have been offered, but we feel like they've got a little bit more upside that they're not getting the benefit of the doubt on, or maybe they're not getting seen the right way, that their gradings weren't where we would agree with, and things like that. And there's a lot of kids. There's a lot of kids that deserve to be in this article, and there's just not enough weeks in the season. And this is one of them where I'm looking for a running back, and I'm like, how the heck did I miss this guy? I watch this guy play every week, and what blew me away was watching the East Noble. I got to see that entire game going up to the UP, like I said, and he ran for 260-some yards on the ground. He literally just gashed the defense. And the whole game was literally Nate Foster versus Dylan Krell, who we had in our eyeballing last year. And both these guys, respectively, are maybe not getting the looks just because they're 2 or 3 inches shorter than what some of the prototypical guys in those positions would be. But that's not to say that this kid shouldn't be playing college ball, because he's a true 4.5 40 speed guy. When you have the read on inside zone and read on dive, where you're willing to lower the boom and just run through guys with reckless abandon, like I said in the article, you get this guy a little bit of time with a true collegiate nutritionist and a college weight program. Leo does have a great weight program, which I'm sure has helped build on what he's got. But you're talking about taking this guy to the next level, and he just runs dudes over, and he does it every week, and he's going to do it again this week. So great running back in Nate Foster. And then going down, this is where in the eyeballing section, sometimes I'm kind of taking some flyers, and I communicate with some of the guys from Summit City and KC with Game Night, and just some other folks like, hey, who do we see that's maybe coming up? And that's where our next guy came in, and got to talk to Coach BJ about Jalen. And this is a guy that Coach BJ has a way of getting recruits, and for Northside just has athletes. That's just what they do over there. They get speed, they get agility, and Jalen's no different. So I'm trying to throw it out there a little early for him, where he's going to get some offers here once the camp season kicks back off. But this is going to be a guy that's going to fly off the tape with his speed and agility. And Coach BJ actually sent me a couple of clips of film that I was just blown away by. And when you look at this guy, the way he's built, true strong safety, at the next level. Matter of time until he gets his look. So there's a name to watch upcoming. So we're just trying to throw eyes on him a little bit earlier. And then last but not least, this is one of Casey's favorites. Great kid to talk to. Got to talk to Coach about him a little bit from New Haven this week, Jesus Diaz. And what I love is the mix of body styles and playing styles that you have in this region, from the mix of the different conferences, and this guy right here is like the old school lunch pail Mike linebacker, your Brian Urlacher type of guy that's just going to come downhill and meet you in an A gap and just get nasty. And he's got a great read and react, a big frame. He wants to play college football. Speaking to Coach, he said, yeah, he absolutely wants to. His grades are there. And so he's a little bit banged up right now. Jesus is. He's working through a small injury, but he's gonna get through that strong. And there's just 3 great names to watch coming onto the scene here.
I love Jesus. I do love Jesus, and I love Jesus also.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
I like to say that. I put that out on Twitter, and I think like 2 people got it, but whatever. He's a great kid, and I know Coach Shear loves his motor and is grateful for his leadership this year for sure.
Yes, he is.
Okay, let's jump in here. Maybe give us a couple minutes, Jackson. Jeff, I'll let you start on the leaders board. There's some great leaders, and then the top 10s are fascinating. The races are really shaping up.
Yeah, Seth Pruitt had a hard time getting going last week, but still leads the 2.60 in rushing. Dario Williams right behind him, and Nate Foster, who Jake was just talking about. Tagulis been holding the lead, but there you go. Braden Holbrook now up to number 2. So a big game from him on Friday, and tough defense by Bluffton. We could have a new passing leader. Also, like you said, if it's a nice night for David Callison, his could be fireworks. I mean, 1,057 yards for Callison, and he missed a game and a half is pretty strong. Kemar Nelson now has 7 sacks. It's like, where did that come from? A lot of those have to be in the last couple of weeks. Of course, Kemar has played 1 less game, as Casey alluded to, with that South Bend Riley game just being defunct. But Kemar at 7, that's wild. Brock Schott at 5.5. Like you said, Casey, tough for Schott because guys are literally game planning against him. They don't run to his side, you know.
No doubt.
Yes. And then Gavin Smith. Not only does he have 6 interceptions, but 2 of those have been returned for touchdowns.
Last week.
That's impressive by Gavin Smith for Columbia City. And then the Northrop guys, Quay Guilford and Jamari Brown, they rank number 5 and 6, 392, 378 yards respectfully. It's fun to see how this is shaping up. I would expect Jaden Van Pelt to rise up in that chart when we post this next week.
Totally agree. And Malik Moore is another one maybe to keep an eye on too, especially as he gets healthy. Akian Arroyo, we talked about him earlier, leads the area in receiving. Oh, and by the way, leads the area on defense and interceptions. He's having a fantastic season. And at some point, some of these guys, people will stop throwing their way because the numbers speak for themselves. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with the Stratton Fuller and some of these other guys. No one throws their direction, or Landon Hepner. You know, they're still putting up really good seasons, really solid numbers, but it's hard to rack up those kind of stats when no balls get thrown their way.
And it's really hard to compile these stats, Casey. So huge shout out to, is it Jesse?
Yeah, Jess helps me with this. She's my primary designer that, you know, helps me with all the ads and keeps everything organized and puts all the pages together. And then, of course, Taylor and Reggie help with some of the specialty designs that you see. And then, of course, I have a ton of photographers that contribute, from John Otto with the studio art, and then Doug Blackwell and Steve Bowen and Amy Kretzinger, and on and on and on. There's a lot of people contributing. Tywell Williams takes a lot of pictures of lures and some of the city teams. So grateful to all of them. Next week, I'm already assembling artwork for our game night gallery to showcase a lot of those fun pictures. I got a lot of great artwork to showcase next week in game night. All right, let's do it. Let's talk. Let's just focus maybe on the featured matchups, and if there's 1 or 2 below, we can certainly get to it. Why don't you give us maybe 4 minutes on this? Thank you, Jackson. Jackson, you're such a nice kid. My kids don't shape up. I might, swap one of them out for you.
Casey,
Bishop Lures at Bishop
time.
Dwinger. The battle of the bishops. The Swami's smelling. He's a homer. He's smelling an upset special here. Saints by 1. Is it possible, Jeff?
Oh, yeah, I'm smelling it too. I'd say let's go Dwanger by 3. But honestly, like I said, if Lures is going to win this game, I just feel like they're going to have to pass for 150 plus 2 touchdowns.
I think you might be right, Jeff. How about you, Jake?
I have got the Saints by 3, and that is via the leg of the Catholic canon himself.
We'll call that canon law. That'll be canon law.
Sure.
All right. We just cursed the poor Saints, right? With a trio of picks there. But I do expect a great game out at Shields Field. The second one, Jake, coming to you. Carroll at Homestead. Swami says Carroll by 20. Too much, not enough.
Man, I don't know why. I just have this gut feeling. I've been watching a lot more Homestead ball this year, so maybe it's swaying me. Maybe I've had a couple too many sips of this Coca-Cola and I got a little bit of a caffeine buzz. I'm going to take Homestead by 1, man.
Oh my gosh, you got your own upset specials there.
Listen, I know that it was the weather last week that kept Wayne closer in that game. I don't know. I just have this gut feeling.
Well, certainly Bishop Lures would be okay with that, especially if they can run the table. They'd like nothing more than to be a SAC champ again with this new format and not have to answer to the fact that they didn't play Carroll and Snyder again. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I'll say it again. If Harold Mack was a quarterback, I believe Wayne goes into Homestead and wins that game. Casey, I think you're spot on, but honestly, let's go 28 points for Carroll because, Jimmy's been getting hated on all year long, has been kind of the chatter around, and I think he's going to have one heck of a passing game with all of the weapons that he has there at wide receiver and the tight end Brady Road. I see Jimmy having a huge game in this one, and Carroll pulling off about a 28-point victory.
Okay,
at Homestead. That's crazy.
Yeah, Jeff's feeling like a 42-14 perhaps. All right, South Side at North Side. Jeff, coming to you real quick. Swami says North Side by 18. That sound about right?
Southside's going to keep this one closer. I could see Northside by 10, but I think South is going to keep it closer. Just high emotions, and South has serious players. And Casey, they've been in a lot of games. You got to remember they took on the gauntlet of Snyder and Carroll back to back. Well, that Snyder game was 14-0 at halftime. So
right. I think they're running on some fuel from B. Antonio's.
There you go. And coming off a dub.
That's right. Jake, what do you think?
I'm going to say North by 14. I do love what South's doing. I don't want to take anything away from them. I love their running game, and I just hope they keep at it.
Coming right back to you, Snake. Columbia City at East Noble. Swami says East Noble by 11. Your thoughts?
I think Dylan Krell at this point is darn near unstoppable. The quarterback play at East Noble has been top tier, and but it doesn't matter, baby, because the Eagles are going to trash them. I got Columbia City by 10. Roll the train.
Please tell me you're not driving, are you?
No, I pulled over.
Okay, you're making me nervous. Your head's bobbing. I can't
get thrown out of town. Big E's will never let me back in. We're winning,
all right.
Casey.
All right, fair enough. I got to meet you there for a cheeseburger soon. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
East Noble by 6. This will be a close game, and it's going to be a game with not as many possessions as you might see in a normal game. So I think both of the teams are going to make the most of it. I don't think there's going to be many turnovers in this one, but I'm giving the edge to East Noble because they have a lot of athletes.
Dylan's domain, guys. It's his world. We just happen to live in it.
Casey,
okay?
I don't want to get too far off topic here, but just my votes for player of the year so far, you got to have Dylan Krell up there and Kemar Nelson. That's just me talking.
For sure. You missed the top of the show. We talked about that. And I think you're right. I think you're spot on, Snake. All right.
Can you do 2 co-players?
No, I don't believe in that.
Yeah,
no participation
I can't afford 2 trophies.
We're sharing the title. We're sharing the bell, Casey.
We'll cut it right down the middle, right? All right, let's do Snyder at Northrop. Jeff, Swami says Snyder by 31.
No, you've convinced me. It's going to be nice out, and Northrop's going to be able to throw the ball a little bit. Let's say Snyder by 21.
Jake?
I like where Jeff's at with that. Snyder by 21.
Okay. Wayne at Concordia. Swami says Wayne by 32. Jake, your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I got to agree with it. 32 seems high, but it also feels right. I mean, I think Kamara is just too good of a player. I mean, he contributes in every aspect of the game for him. I'm with it.
He's at a different level right now. Jeff, your thoughts?
Yeah, not only that, let's fire up the scoreboard. Let's get Jacob Sharon involved, Stallings involved. Oh man, big Trey Dillard, HJ Dillard. Yep. I mean, ever since they moved him to wide receiver, he just trucks guys. Let's get all those guys a touchdown. The Sherwood Haydock is going to have 5 different guys score a touchdown.
And Harold Mack will be one of them on a QB bootleg. Yep, bootleg. I love it. All right, Huntington North at Leo. Swami's got Leo by 21. Jeff?
Yeah, Leo needs to win this game by 21 to boost their spirits a little bit. I mean, if the one area that they have been lacking in is the offensive production through the passing game. So let's get that passing game going. I think their defense is going to be just fine with Huntington North, but I'm going to say Leo by 14, and I think they're going to feel good about that.
Okay, Jake, your thoughts?
I like the Leo by 21. I feel like it's for them. They're going to consider that a get-right game. I think that the Vikings will be able to run and throw a little bit, but I just think that Leo's going to be just locked in, ready to rebound and pounce.
Yep, I think Leo's still working through a few injuries, and they're trying to get healthy for the stretch run here, but Swami thinks somewhere like 35, 14, 38, 17, something like that. All right, Heritage at Bluffton. Swami, upset special 2, part 2. Heritage by 1. And I think this is an upset if Heritage wins the game. What do you think, Jake?
Man, I like Bluffton in this one by, I'm going to say 3. But I could see that Heritage could upset this and win by a point. I mean, I think this is going to be a great game.
For sure. Jeff, your thoughts?
No shot upset here. I mean, Heritage won at home. Bluffton's going to win at home. Got to defend that turf.
Okay. We'll see. That'll be another one. My eyeballs will be on tomorrow night. West Noble at Lakeland. We talked about it earlier tonight, guys. Swami says Lakeland by 4. They rise up and get a little revenge from last year. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
I'm really feeling a bounce back win for West Noble. I feel like last week just wasn't your West Noble Charger football team against Garrett, even though Garrett is an awesome squad this year. But no, give me West Noble by 4.
Snake?
I agree with Jeff right there. I think I love Braden Holbrook, man. He is fun to watch. Outside of Jimmy Sullivan, I think he's the best quarterback around. Obviously, Axton best.
Are you guys camping later on tonight? You guys seem awful cozy.
Hey, we ran. Did Jeff tell you we ran into each other at the gas station last night?
Yeah, you guys had a gas station excursion. I heard.
Jeff
and Jeff
got arrested down there.
I heard Jeff was breaking the law.
We didn't know the
Busco. We were traipsing around in a 4-wheeler.
Listen, if Busco PD is listening, we love our fellows, our boys in blue. But
That's
guys,
right.
This is county football season. You got to let the boy run around in his UTV on the streets. It's Cherubusco.
We back the blue for sure. Even though Jeff is breaking the law up there, left and right, he's out petitioning to change the nickname from the Eagles to the Terrapins.
And I'm with that.
He's pushing that hard up there, and the cop pulled him over and said, "You take your mustache and go back home."
Yeah,
and he sent him on his way, didn't he? I love that.
That's the truth. Now let's we talked about cinnamons and stuff. Tortoise. It could be the Cherubusco tortoise or the Cherubusco cooter, the leatherback, the loggerhead,
cougars,
slowpoke, snapper, terrapin. And
snappers.
Chelonian?
I like the snappers because those things are violent.
Snappers, yeah, those are tough.
Okay. Well, you've been thinking about this, Jeff.
Chelonian. Well, Jake and I were like, hey, what are other names for turtles?
Yeah,
Terps
is
great, though. So. Terps is great.
Terps is cool.
Well, all we have to do is just get some, whacked out person up there to say that they're offended by Eagles. And then we'll get this whole thing rolling in that direction. That's all it takes.
Right.
I volunteer.
Right.
Okay, Jeff's the guy. He's offended by it. All right, perfect. All right, I think that's enough. Thank you guys for joining tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching Around the Fort. We will be back next week, weather permitting. And until then, I am Casey for the Killer Jays, Jackson, Jeff, and Jake the Snake with the 10-2. We'll see you next week, everybody. Good night.
Why choose Kelly Chevrolet? We offer a wide selection of new and used inventory with a team that guides you to your perfect fit. Our certified pre-owned options ensure peace of mind with warranties and rigorous inspections. Competitive pricing, flexible financing, and convenient trade and services, making your dream Chevrolet a reality. Trust our experienced service team to keep your vehicle in top shape and enjoy free car washes as long as you own your vehicle.